Welcome to another Full Build Friday, where I make characters from your favorite games, shows, and media as Pathfinder 2e builds. This week is a rebuild that you all voted to be featured, and is a bit of an older one. Magic the Gathering can be a tad difficult to translate at times, but I did my best with Rhys the Exiled. Before we begin, we're now on Patreon. You can get builds and monsters 3 weeks early there, as well as unique items and extra content. Even a little bit helps us go a long way. Now, even if I've looked at this before, we do need to conjure up some goals to follow for this build. Rhys hails from the plane of Lorwyn, where he's an elven hunter who arose to a position of prominence as a leader of his brethren. Before rising to said position, he was trained by a tree folk sage, who taught him the use of poison magic. During a battle, his superior officer pushed him to use this magic, which he proceeded to lose control of and accidentally killed many of his kin, resulting in his exile. In-game, he's represented through 2 different cards, which are predominantly associated with green mana, with respective splashes of black and white mana in them. Rhys the Exiled is a mono-green 3/2 legendary elf warrior who heals the player when he attacks based on the number of elves that player controls, and can be regenerated by tapping into black mana and sacrificing another elf. Following his so-called redemption, he became Rhys the Redeemed. In this form, he's a green-white 1/1 legendary elf warrior creature who can create other 1/1 elf warrior tokens and also duplicate tokens. While it isn't really represented in either of his cards, he is shown to wield light blades while also carrying a bow. That is a bit less to work with than usual, and that which we do have to work with can be a little tough to translate over into Pathfinder. We definitely need to work in the abstract, and while it's only in his backstory, I want to include his use of poison, along with the ability to call forth and command hordes of minions. As to his player healing, that will likely just be switched to healing his party. His regenerate allows him to escape death, which I have a few ideas for, though we might not be able to include the whole thing about sacrificing his ally to do so. I am sure then it is no surprise to find that we'll be starting off with the elf ancestry. However, I'm going to mix things up just a tiny bit with the Dromar heritage, marking Rhys as a half-orc. By taking this, Rhys can gain the Orc Ferocity Ancestry feat, a reaction that allows him to literally defy death, much like how Regenerate allows him to do the same from his card. This is perhaps the best means of representing this as far as I've found, but we'll touch on it a few more times throughout the build. Rhys then gains ability boost to Dexterity and Intelligence, a flaw to Constitution, and then a free boost to his Charisma. His background is another weird one, as I am using the Pyre Tender background. I could make an excuse about how his association with Ashling might explain this, but honestly, I mainly just wanted the crafting proficiency, along with the alchemical crafting skill feat. There's also some training in funeral lore here, but that alchemical crafting will give him the ability to create poisons, which is notably all background fluff even in his home game. It is not remotely represented in any of his cards. He does further gain ability boost to Dexterity and Strength, and then we can get into his class. And this is another sort of switch up. I originally used the Ranger, but due to some changes in the remaster, and synergy with other aspects of the kit that I was looking at building, I found myself favoring the Rogue. The change to have them be able to use martial weapons opens up some aspects for me, even if I have equipped him with some rather basic weapons for the time being. His key ability is determined by his racket, and I think Thief works best for him, making Dexterity his key ability and adding its value to the damage of certain attacks from him. He further gains Surprise and Sneak Attack, allowing him to lead his lackeys in staging ambushes against unaware enemies. For his class feat, I'm looking at Twin Feint, mainly because we do see him wielding a pair of blades in the art of his second card, and because the others are even more tenuous. Since we are building this Regal Rhys as a rogue, he also gains a skill feat. This will let him pick up an early additional lore feat for Warfare lore. This will further provide him with scaling proficiency on this skill, which feels right for a leader of sorts and is something we can definitely take advantage of. To finish off his first level then, he'll apply his ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma. Being a rogue gives him a wealth of skills that he's trained in, starting with Stealth and Thievery, before he also adds in Acrobatics, Athletics, Deception, Medicine, Nature, Occultism, Society, and Survival. As I said at the top, I don't think either of his weapons are really reflected in his card's effects, but he does appear to wield some sort of light sword, warning perhaps a short sword or other finesse blade, and your choice of bow. I think any of them could really make sense for him. Getting into second level then, we are already starting off a little busy as Rhys gains a Captain Dedication. While the lead gets buried a bit in the actual text of the feat, the big pull of this archetype is the follower that it provides Rhys with. I could see a range of followers suiting him, with Scout and its ability to damage off-guard foes, or Shield Bearer and its ability to protect Rhys making the most sense to me. This feat further makes him trained in diplomacy, while his actual skill increase makes him an expert in medicine. One final feature of the class feat is the Group Impression skill feat, while Rhys also gains the Battle Medicine skill feat, giving him some ability to heal and restore others even in the midst of combat, which is of course inspired by his recently exiled card. At third level, rogues gain the Deny Advantage class feature, and another skill increase that will lead to him becoming an expert in crafting. While Rhys's toughness and magic isn't anything to write home about, I still took the general feat to help him hang in melee, and to make it easier for him to recover from death. He can also take advantage of his warfare lore through Battle Planner, and feats like this, along with his Captain archetype, will let us explore his role as a leader of elves, and men, but mostly elves, even if I do think that is a little half-baked in his cards. I do try to explore those elements of this elvish eliminator of inelegance at 4th level as he takes additional follower. He can't have multiple followers out at the same time, but this is honestly the extent of my idea for recovering his ability to call forth elf warrior tokens, which is admittedly more than I managed last time. He can then become an expert in acrobatics and gain specialty crafting with a focus on alchemy, so that it's even easier for him to brew up poisons. I wish I had Death Touch or something at least of that sort, as at least a tiny nod to the poison magic that supposedly ignited his whole story. In either case, our potential purveyor of poisons is provided with ability boost at level 5 that he will apply to his strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom. As a rogue, he gains weapon tricks and a skill increase to become an expert of athletics. In honor of his regenerate, we can take the Defy Death Ancestry feat while using continual recovery for his skill feat, for the healing that he provides, as well as just making treat wounds a bit more regularly useful. After level 6 starts with a skill increase to stealth, this Supreme Servine strategist supplements his Sylvan soldiers with Experienced Follower, which is a bit of a disconnect from magic. The tokens in MTG are all measly 1/1s, but if we want these followers to actually be useful in Pathfinder, we have to make sure to upgrade them with these sorts of feats. He can also make use of Ward Medic, so that way he's able to treat all of his followers and allies at the same time. At least eventually. Definitely not right off the bat here. Lucky level 7 is pretty busy for this brigade boss as he gains evasive reflexes, perception mastery, weapon specialization, and a skill increase for medicine and warfare lore alike. Furthermore, there is Die Hard as a general feat to make it even harder to put him down, and then the improvised strategy feat from the recently released Hell's Destiny Adventure. This amazing feat is a sort of improved version of Dirty Trick, except it is based off of warfare lore and can inflict a range of conditions for his team to take advantage of. Expanding on the eminence of his elves at level 8, Rhys can use Veteran Follower to give the lads a boost, and then Paragon Battle Medicine to keep them in the fight. He also receives a skill increase, which he'll use to become a master in crafting, so that he's even better at preparing his poisons. From there, and from the rogue class, Rhys receives the ever-delightful Debilitating Strike, some rogue resilience, and a skill increase to become a master in acrobatics. He will immediately make use of that this level, but first has Undying Ferocity to help keep him a little bit more durable after he uses Orc Ferocity, and then he goes ahead and gets his Kip Up. It is simply a case of being one of the best value feats you can find, letting him pop back up to his feet after falling as a free action. As to the 10th level of this tactician with the teaming troops, he's going to start with ability boost to his strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom, as well as a skill increase that allows him to master his athletics. Despite the talk on troops, his class feat is actually a return to rogue with poison weapon. This better represents his background association with poison, which again, is not remotely present in his cards, so I debated even including it. Anyway, he also gets quick jump for some extra action compression along the lines of Kip Up. It could also be to let him leap from branch to branch as he hunts down Eye Blights. And once he's carried out enough of said hunts, he should make it to level 11 where he becomes an expert rogue and a master at stealth. He can use Fleet as a general feat for some even more mobility, and also look at the Tactical Acumen skill feat. This comes from the same source as Improvised Strategy, but isn't quite as useful. I mainly took it because it provides extra benefits when Rhys leads a troop, which I think suits the concept of the character as a whole. Talking on those tactics, 12th level leads to coordinated tactics, which kind of inspired the use of Rogue in the first place. I thought it would be fun for Rhys to really take advantage of the off guard this inflicts, and possibly even share it if he's running around with a scout follower. That same follower would likely work very well with his swift sneak skill feat, which will allow Rhys to take advantage of his own considerable speed as a fleet elf to quickly get in position for an ambush. So if level 7 was busy, I don't even know what to call level 13, where Rhys gets greater rogue reflexes, light armor expertise, master tricks, perception legend, and a master proficiency in survival. With all the allies he has, I'm sure he'll find time to take advantage of Avenge Ally, whereas Environmental Guide allows him to help his companions travel through harsher environments with far greater ease. And as that journey brings him to level 14, Rhys uses Exceptional Follower to further enhance his companions, and, after becoming an expert in thievery, uses Foil Senses as something that is just generally useful. This is probably our easiest level of the bunch, which means we can roll right into level 15. Here, he gains ability boost that will take to his strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom. He further finds double debilitation, greater weapon specialization, and a skill increase that makes him a legend in medicine, as well as warfare lore. With the robust health general feat, we'll get more healing whenever he gets his wounds treated, and can keep with that idea with legendary medic. While it doesn't provide any actual healing, it lets him restore and revitalize his allies. For those instances though where he finds himself in the thick of it, he has sidestep at his sweet 16 to allow him to avoid the able attacks of his adversaries. Through this, he can dodge death and deal it to someone else. This affects an enemy rather than an ally, but is still at least a teensy bit inspired by his ability to regenerate, and the fact that he has to sacrifice somebody for it. He can also use Legendary Professional, since he has that automatic legendary proficiency in warfare lore, and this will allow him to make the most of it and make some money out of it. Our class features are then a good bit lighter at level 17, as it only features Agile Mind, and his skill increase will make Rhys a legend in acrobatics. For his final ancestry feat, he's got Rampaging Ferocity, so that he gets more use out of his Orc Ferocity, whereas Tumbling Teamwork takes advantage of his recently raised acrobatics skill, and lets him help his allies get into the position against their foes. For his level 18, he gets back into his rogue a little bit with improved Poison Weapon, which allows him to preserve his poisons and deal more with them. Not that you'd know he uses them at all if you just looked at his cards. Before I get bogged down in that, he has the Wall Jump skill feat. It's one of those feats that aren't really demonstrated by anything we know about the character, but I feel like could be useful in navigating the woods. I could see him bouncing between tree trunks or something. And once he's through said woods, he finds level 19 with its Light Armor Mastery, Master Strike, and a skill increase that makes him a legend in stealth. True Perception should aid him in his hunting, and Legendary Sneak helps him launching those ambushes he does to eliminate eye blights that dare to impugn his vision. To finally finish out the build, level 20 comes with a final round of ability boost to his strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom, as well as a skill increase to make him a legend in survival. The Rogue is one of those martial classes that doesn't have any permanently quickening capstone class feats, but we can actually find something along those lines with the Peerless Captain Archetype feat, ensuring that he always has an extra action that he can use to command his capable companions. He further demonstrates his leadership skills with Legendary Guide, aiding his allies in advancing through arboreal areas and beyond as they set out on their grand quest. And on said quest, you're sure to encounter some troubles. Rhys' skills play into him being a bit more active and are best suited for adventures in the wild where he can scout ahead, likely with a scout follower accompanying him, before setting up plans against upcoming enemies. Once he's in combat, he'll want to get into position to make enemies off guard, which will be much easier once he gets coordinated tactics, and can be further taken advantage of by a scout companion. After he's gotten into position, he can readily make 2 strikes, and then finish off the round with a command, with the scout being good for dealing damage, a shield bearer providing protection, or a sharpshooter firing from afar. Unfortunately, he only gets 2 followers with the build I presented here, which is part of the reason why I think a free Archetype game would be massive for this build. Outside of gaining even more additional followers, up to 4, he could use Leader of All, which I really debated about including in this base build. This would allow his followers to properly be elves, like the tokens he creates, and maybe there's a way you could squeeze it in there. You could also explore Rogue more, probably get some more of the poison weapon stuff, or any of the other fantastic Rogue feats. Outside of that, you're probably looking at the Commander or Marshal dedication, so that he can better lead his companions and cohorts. Do we have our soldiers in order, or are they all AWOL? Let's review and find out. Rhys is a Dromar elf rogue with a thief racket and a background as a pyre tender, which I am mainly taking to acquire alchemical crafting so that he can make poisons. This, and the poison weapon feat as well as its improvement, is probably the best bet when it comes to demonstrating the poison magic he supposedly wields, which is so underrepresented in its cards that neither of them even have Death Touch. I did place a much greater focus on his ability to bring allies to the battlefield through the Captain dedication, and the followers it grants him. He also makes considerable use of the medicine skill, and a range of its skill feats to represent his healing and life restoring capabilities. It's difficult to cover his ability to regenerate from lethal damage, but deflecting damage to others through sidestep, as well as surviving what would be a fatal blow with Orc Ferocity, should work for it. As a dex-focused rogue, he will be able to switch between light blades and a bow with little trouble, which wraps up this rather basic build. Bounding through bows and barrows, this blade and bow bearing badass brings a bunch of buddies to the battle, bossing them out to be their best. We are getting close to 1,000 subscribers. If you guys can help me get there, I've got an idea to do something special for the channel here. Until we do though, tell me what you think of the build and what other ones I should do. If you dig what I've done here, let me know with a like and a subscribe. I want to give a big thanks to the folks on the Patreon, with a special shout out to the Orc Overlords. That being Decaffeinate, Robert Miller, Shy Benster, Vorthis, and Black Ouroboros. You too could head on over there for early access to the vids and extra content. Either way, thanks for watching and have a fantastic Friday.